You're listening to the Three Angry Giant Fans and a Jet Fan podcast with your hosts Scott, Giant Mike, Cardone, and Jets fan Novak. Listen to us free on Buzzsprout, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
You move to the second quarter, that's right, because I can only feel people out there being like, what's going on? First and goal. Mahomes flings it. It's there! Hardman! Jackpot! Kansas City! And this was the Andy Reid special. This was the Andy Reid special we talked about. He was saving all day. He's going to fake a motion to go across. And at that moment, he turns and goes back. Hardman, who they didn't have, right? And they go get Hardman and bring him back. And the game-winning drive of Mahomes' career, he's been waiting for. He's won Super Bowls, but he's never had it in an overtime. He is the best. He is the standard when Michael Jordan wins it again.
So that was the final play of the season of the Super Bowl, called by Tony Romo and Jim Nantz. Jim Nantz gave a great touchdown call, and then Tony Romo would not shut up for the next 45 seconds. He would not let the play speak for itself, and he did probably 150 more words than Madden and Summerall would have had to just let the play go. So congratulations to the Chiefs, but what a abysmal ending there on the announcing side.
Just awful. I mean, they had an opportunity to have an all-time great sort of, just like Al Michaels, do you believe in miracles? Yes. And then they just let it play out. These assholes gotta just chime in. Can you imagine if the commentator with Michaels had been like, Pavlicek passes to Eruzione and they set that up, and come on, what are they doing?
One of the best ever is when Cal Ripken broke Lou Gehrig's, Ironman record, and they just let him run around like they didn't say anything for like 20 minutes or something. Just let it. Sometimes you just got to absorb it and take the moment in. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I thought it was a particularly tough night for Romo. That did not go well for him. Yeah, that was bad. And I totally didn't even catch it. I think because I probably turned the TV off the minute, because I didn't want to see any post-game anything with the Chiefs involved. So I probably just got that off before anything else happened. But yeah, Romo, I thought throughout the game was having a bad night. Sometimes you got to let the moment breathe. My point of reference, of course, being the Giants, Burris alone, touchdown New York, and then nobody said anything for 30 seconds.
Great.
That's how you do that.
Jim Nantz had a pretty good call, and they could have said something like, "We're watching a dynasty," and just left it at that, and then watched them celebrate for the next 30 seconds. Instead, Romo started going, "Well, that was an Andy Reid special there. Do you see the man cutting across the middle?" And I'm like, "What the hell? The game's over with, dude. You don't have to break down the play. Season's over with."
I didn't know we were going to start with Romo tonight, but I might as well just pile on. I had a couple notes about Romo. The only one I really wrote down was this guy was in fucking 4-down territory the entire night. Did you guys notice this? Every single drive, Romo was saying 4 down. I'm like, stop it, Tony. I'm on a first name basis with him in the middle of early in the game. I'm like, Tony, cut it out. Knock it off. Every possession. Did you guys notice that? First 4-down territory right from the get-go. First quarter. I'm like, no, it's not. What's amazing is I just looked at the box score again. There were 7 field goals in this game, guys. 7. Yeah. So field goals can still win you games. They can win you Super Bowls.
Look at that.
This guy wants 4 downs in the first quarter. God almighty.
I particularly like Romo because he talked about nerves the whole game. Some of those Super Bowl nerves. And I'm sitting there on the couch. I think I might have texted it to you guys. I'm like, what does Tony Romo know about nerves in the Super Bowl? What is he doesn't. Why is he talking to us about this? And by the way, he's like, Purdy's going to take a couple series to settle down. Did anybody look more calm, cool, and collected ever in a Super Bowl game than Brock Purdy in the first quarter?
Yeah.
It looked like he was playing a touch football game with his kids.
I personally didn't like the jackpot Kansas City comment because it was in Las Vegas. I mean, they're a dynasty. Like, what is it going to be in New Orleans next year? And they're like, give us your beads, Kansas City. Like, where's it? Who cares that it's in Las Vegas? It's a Super Bowl.
We could go a lot of ways in New Orleans. But,
Well,
Yeah.
I was going to go
sure.
a different direction, but I would
Yeah.
sound really chauvinistic there. But
And
I don't know.
we got the 9:30 PG-13 start tonight.
No, that's fair.
Right.
so we are the three Angry Giant fans. Your host Scott, Giant Mike, Cardone, and Angry Jets fan Novak. And like Mike said, we're starting a little bit late. It's Valentine's Day. We spent time with our significant others and then came on the air a little bit later. So before we get into the breakdown, again, this is a wrap up of season 4 of the Three Angry Giant Fans. Been a great season, and we'll talk about that towards the end. But let's give a final shout out this year, and this one's going to the coast of North Carolina. So, hello, Kinston, North Carolina, population 19,900. It's in Lenore County in the eastern side of the state, obviously, since there's water over there. And it originally was called Kingstown for King George the Third. But after the American Revolution, the G was dropped so that the people could show their disdain for royalty. So we've severed ourselves now from England. So you can't call yourselves Kingstown. It has to be Kinston. And it was the home.
Quite a burn.
Damn it, they dropped the G. What the fuck are they doing to us here? It was the home of Dwight Clark, which is apropos since a former 49er with the catch, and also a famous Boston Celtic, Cornbread Maxwell.
Cornbread.
Oh,
A UNC Charlotte guy.
UNC Charlotte guy.
He's a Charlotte 49er. Final Four, 1977.
Cedric Cornbread, maybe?
Yeah.
Yep.
Cornbread.
I noticed, although they dropped the G to thumb their nose at royalty, I'm looking at the map, which I always do when you bring up the shout outs. The main drag in Kinston, not Kingston, is the corner of East King Street and North Queen Street. So I don't know.
Sounds like Kramer when he was at the nexus of the universe, when he's like, I'm at the corner of First and First. How can the same street intersect with itself?
That's funny, Mike. You know, they have a disdain for royalty, but King Street and Queen Street still exists.
Yep, right there in the heart of old Kinston.
That's great.
I wonder how many people were putting the stockades for calling it Kingston.
Yeah. Send them to the stockades on King Street.
So I don't know about you guys. Like Super Bowl, you know, I mean, it came and went, but this season more than any other, and it could have been because both of our teams are terrible, but I was ready for the season to be over with. I really just I was done with it. I watched the game. I thought it was I'll go on a little bit later about how the superlatives people were throwing out after this game, which are really uncalled for. But it was a Super Bowl. It happened. Like Mike said, I turned it off as soon as it was done. I didn't watch the post game. I didn't really watch any of the hubbub this week. Just done and over. Let's move on. Season 5.
Yeah, that's odd for the four of us, right? We're usually depressed when the football season ends, and I couldn't agree more, Scott. I thought the same exact thing going into this game. I don't know why. For some reason, just being beat down from this season, I think, for our teams, and then I didn't watch a minute of pregame. I didn't watch a minute of the postgame. I watched a little bit of the reactions. I'll get into a little bit of my pet peeves. That's in my pet peeves a little bit too, as far as the, of course, the reaction, Monday and Tuesday. But yeah, halftime show, the commercial sucked. Halftime show sucks. I can't. The whole product, the entire event, as Kramer would say, it's going way downhill like Joe's fruit stand. Bad.
Joe's fruit stand.
Yeah, it definitely was. I will say it was the first time that I can remember in my lifetime that I really didn't care all that much. Like Super Bowl Sunday is like that day the week prior that you're like 2 more days, 3 more, like 4 more days, 3 more days. And it I woke up Sunday. I'm like, oh, it's the Super Bowl today. Like, and I think that's it was the year that I think it turned for the true NFL fan. This was the year that it turned for me, sadly.
You might be right, because as Scott said, I try to attribute it to our team's records, and not just the records, but the absolutely embarrassing showing of this year. But it's not like we're not coming off a decade of that. And I've never felt like this before. So there might be something to that, Novak, that we've been years and years now, we've been saying it's slipping away, it's slipping away, it's slipping away. And, this year took a big jump in my mind on how bad things were at every level of the sport that we used to love. From the play right up to the announcing, to the during the week coverage, to the reactions of fans, everything is just gross now.
Yeah, and it was in Vegas, which is over the top. But to add to that, the NFL now has created a spectacle on Super Bowl week. They have the Super Bowl opening night, which is a farce, and then you have the awards show, and you have people like Deion Sanders coming out to present awards with some actress in like a dress, like they're at the Academy Awards, and you got Kirk Cousins out there dancing with some group, and it's just it's become a spectacle. And Novak said it very well. I think the last pod or two pods ago about Taylor Swift. This is not Taylor Swift's fault, but what the NFL has done is taken advantage of the Taylor Swift effect. And now what we're going to be left going forward is the league trying to desperately hold on to that audience
to replicate it.
And I don't know what they're going to do about that.
Wait till the next. By the way? Yeah, you're skipping a little bit, but wait till the next player dates a famous actress model situation. It becomes the formula, right? The NFL is historically done this forever. They get the formula and then they replicate it to try to recreate it. It's going to be a new one next year, right? It's going to be Jennifer Lawrence is dating Josh Allen, and that's going to be the story, right? They're going to find some kind of connection and do the same damn thing to get the ratings up. We know it's going to happen. We know it.
Yeah. Did you guys lose my audio earlier, by the way?
Just cutting in and out, but we got you.
A little choppy.
All right.
A little choppy.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm saying, no, just the fact that we're spending time talking about it is disruptive, and it interferes with the actual the football itself. That's why I'm telling you guys, like even like you just mentioned, like Deion Sanders. I didn't watch any of this shit, guys. I'm serious, I didn't. And I didn't. That's normally I'll tune into a little bit, at least know the headlines and things that are going on. I didn't watch any of it. I turned the game on right around kickoff, watched every play. Game ended, turned it off, and that was it. Didn't watch the post game. I'm usually up past 1 a.m. Watching the Super Bowl. Doesn't matter what the teams are, or whatever, because it's the last bit of football. It's a Super Bowl, and you just want to absorb every drop of it. And same thing, guys. The game was over. TV was off 5 minutes later.
Well, they did a session or a segment before the Super Bowl. I think I texted you guys about it, but they recreated the NFL Today back.
That was fantastic.
It was awesome. It was the best part, and luckily I caught it. But I will say that they showed Brent Musburger tearing up and the whole thing, and everyone says that he was sad about Irv Cross not being around and Phyllis George and all that. I took it as he was crying because this is what the NFL used to be and what it's not today. I mean, that's how I saw it.
Yeah. He was mourning.
Yeah.
Mourning the loss of the NFL, man. It's, the NFL used to be so great because, these unscripted moments, and most of them on the field, but there was some cool shit that happened in press conferences and other stuff too. And now everything about the NFL seems contrived, trying to recapture something that happened in the past, but now it's packaged and, everything about it just seems fake now. I'm not even talking about like the results of the games yet, but just, everything about it just seems like they're cramming something down our throat that we don't need crammed down our throat. Just back off. We're going to watch it. It's in a very sad place. It's textbook and how to ruin something good.
Mm-hmm. That segment on the NFL Today, my wife, Stephanie, she watched it with me and she loved it. And she said, she goes, well, what was so unique? And I said, you don't understand. I said, as a kid my age, or as a kid our ages, that was our pregame. Like you woke up and it came on at 12:30. It didn't even come on at noon. It was 12:30. And, Brent Musburger would be like, you're looking live at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium where the Falcons will be taking on the Saints today. And from that point on, you had goosebumps. You sat there and you watched that half hour, and it wasn't like a bunch of fluff. They did the intros of the game. They talked to some of the announcers. They maybe did one interview, and then they went to the picks and stuff like that. And I said it was such a simple thing, but that was what we knew. We didn't know these 4-hour shows. We just knew that half-hour segment, and then you were ready for football. And it was a simpler time, but for me, it was a much better time. You didn't have to worry about what station you had it on. You just put it on CBS. Yeah. And what was sad to me about watching that recap was, as Brent was crying and things like that, he's really the only surviving original cast member. Now, Jane Kennedy was there still, but Jane Kennedy came in, I think, after Phyllis George was on her way out. So
I just thought of one segment that I saw. I think it was the NFL Network. Might have even been Saturday, I think. And they put quotes up on the screen, and the game was you had to guess who said it. Was it Andy Reid or Taylor Swift? And I'm like, that's it. I've had enough. That's all for two. It was just random quotes. I can't even think of one off the top of my head. Not that it matters, but that's it. I was flipping around just trying to get some flavor of like Super Bowl weekend. Right, guys, Saturday, and before the college basketball started, just whatever. And I see this one segment. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. I'm like, this is exactly. I'll turn the game on at 6:30 on Sunday. That's it. Can't watch any of this stuff.
Yeah. And the magic of that half hour was that was everything we needed to know.
Yep.
You didn't need to know any more than that. You didn't need to hear, 15 different talking heads tell you they need to run the ball and stop the run. You didn't need that. We got our half hour. You wished even back then you were like, man, I wish they came on an hour. I wish it was an hour long. That I really enjoyed that lead in. Now it's, pretty much 24 hours and I don't watch a minute of it. My goal is to turn the TV on when the foot hits the football. That's what I try to do every Sunday morning or afternoon.
Which seems like it's at 1:06 these days rather than like 1 o'clock or 1:01 or.
And if you guys remember on Sunday evenings, right at 7 p.m. when the late games ended, I loved tuning in to NFL Primetime on ESPN, the original one with Tom Jackson and Chris Berman. I mean, that was go back to some YouTube, a couple of those clips when the highlights and the way they broke down every single game was just absolutely phenomenal. And we'll never, ever see anything like it again.
Let's go to the judge, Bill Piddo.
Yeah.
the Bill Piddo games.
They'd give him like Bucks Falcons.
Yeah.
Now, we were talking a little bit earlier about how, the NFL is making this a spectacle and what will happen now going forward. Well, there's a groundswell of support now. I've heard it numerous times this week where I think there's a movement, and this is likely, I think, to happen, where they're going to put the Super Bowl permanently in Vegas. They talk about it being the perfect venue for the Super Bowl, how everything was so good this year with the surroundings and the entertainment. And guys, I could see this becoming a thing now. Next year's in New Orleans. I think the year after they already know where it's going to be. And then after that, they probably could make it Vegas every year.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not? Yeah, I'm kind of indifferent. Like I don't think I really care.
Yeah. I mean, just why not? Just screw it. Just obliterate everything that we know that is great about the NFL. Even the Super Bowl, changing the location, moving it around, screw it. Just can't stop it.
Our collective 4 responses says all that we need to know. Because we're all like that. Who cares? Whatever. You want to put it there, no big deal.
I don't care.
Like 5 years ago, we would have been like pounding the table. You can't do that.
Yeah,
it's true.
No. Screw it. Do it. Nobody cares.
So one of the bright spots coming out of this game, there was a first. So Steve Spagnuolo, 4 Super Bowl wins, the most of any coordinator in any side of the ball, which well deserved. Obviously he started with the Giants in his Super Bowl runs, but he's been there now for the Chiefs. And you have to hand it to him. The Chiefs always have talked about the offense since Mahomes has been there. And I think at least this season, to me, the defense is what propelled them. Chiefs didn't have a great offensive game. They scored there at the end of the game and then in overtime. But,
you
you have to give it up to Spagnuolo. He's dialed up those defenses in the big time.
Yeah, he's a playoff defensive coordinator. I mean, I think there was a section there, I believe it was in the fourth quarter, where the 49ers really just needed a first down and the Chiefs were in big trouble. And Spags zero blitzed. The ball got knocked down at the line of scrimmage. And then 8 plays later, with the 49ers in the same situation, they drop back and give up a huge first down. And that is, was that Steve Wilkes from the Panthers? Is that their guy?
Just got fired.
Steve Wilkes, who, by the way, is fired. So one defensive coordinator has gotten his 4th Super Bowl win. Steve Wilkes, who, by the way, I thought did a great job with the Niners. Niners defense was the strength of that team. He becomes a scapegoat for another Shanahan collapse.
Well, did they say something in the broadcast about Shanahan, like overruling a call that he made at some point or something in the...
They called a timeout because he didn't like the defensive look that they were giving. Shanahan called the timeout, and they sort of alluded to the fact there that he didn't like what defense he saw. Now, I will say this: Wilkes is the only person on that staff that was outside of the Shanahan family, let's call it. So, everyone else had some ties to him. Steve Wilkes did not. But I'll tell you what, I think you could make a case that Steve Wilkes has been jobbed 3 times in this league. He got jobbed by the Cardinals when they fired him. He definitely got jobbed by the Panthers. He deserved to be the coach going into what he did last year. And then I don't think he deserved to get fired from Kansas City or from San Francisco, given to what we saw.
Definitely did.
Yeah.
I look at coordinators, a lot of coordinators around the league that didn't make it to the Super Bowl, and they still have their jobs. And here's a guy getting shit canned after coming an overtime away from winning a championship. It's crazy to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you guys, but there were several reactions. Obviously, during the game, there's multiple text threads going, and there's people all over the quick to react, and then of course the immediate reaction by the sports media. It was actually refreshing to see defenses. They were both defenses were getting stops. Mm-hmm. That's the way it's supposed to be. Like, I was okay with a 10-3 game or whatever it was at 6. I know it was what was it, 6? What was the score? It was 0-0 after the first, and then only 10-3 at halftime.
10-3.
Yeah, both defenses were getting stops. It was actually refreshing to see that instead of just offenses going up and down the field. And again, we have to act like it's a bad, what's wrong with the Niner defense? They can't, or the Niner offense. Purdy, doesn't look like he's in sync, and Mahomes needs to get it together. And I was hearing that during the middle of the game. I'm like, what are you talking about? There's fucking defenses out there that they're doing their jobs to stop the other team. We never talk about defenses or getting stops anymore. These are Super Bowl defenses, aren't they?
Yep.
It's amazing. In fact, I know that the game, one of my big turning points. I know San Francisco eventually, took the lead 16-13 later on, but after Mahomes threw that interception to start the third quarter, the second half there, it was 10-3 Niners. He throws that pick. The Niners have a 1st and 10 on Kansas City's 44, and they just shut that drive down. And I remember thinking, that's a huge stop right there.
Yep.
Yeah, that was huge because if they get if they turn that into 7 and go to 17-3, big trouble for Kansas City at that point. But they didn't, they got the ball in the 44. And how often do we see guys immediately just the automatic first down there, and you're immediately in field goal range? And I give Kansas City's defense a lot of credit. Spags, I kept thinking the whole night, I'm like, we had this guy on the Giant. This was our coordinator who helped us win 2 Super Bowls, and now he's doing the same thing for Kansas City. It's almost sad for me to see him still wearing the Kansas City red. No longer, just thinking about it, his time with the Giants.
My question on Spags is, let's say he wins one more. Why can't this guy go in the Hall of Fame as a D coordinator?
He probably can.
Well, but I don't think there's been someone that has gone into the Hall for a coordinator role that I'm aware of.
That's an interesting one. That is. I thought there were, but you might be right.
I don't know that there has been, but there should be, right? I mean, he's won 2 Super Bowls with the Giants. He did win 2, right? 2. With you guys.
Yeah.
And now with the Chiefs, he's got to go down as the greatest defensive coordinator probably of all time. I mean, Buddy Ryan, I guess, had the 85 Bears. I get that. And he was great in the Eagles, but he was the head coach there. Why can't a coordinator go into the Hall of Fame when some of these clowns are getting in that don't belong to be there or deserve to be there?
Yeah, he's done a wonderful job, and I'll circle back. I'll eat some crow. A couple weeks ago, I said I thought the Kansas City defense is pretty overrated, and they've done nothing but play lights out since I said that. And I'll own that one. Um, they played very well in the Super Bowl, and all through the playoffs, really.
Yeah.
So, what did you guys think after the game? One of the immediate reactions I heard was from the analytics people again, dissecting the overtime decision by Shanahan. And it's funny, it's timely because last week in the off week, we played a mishmash of our pet peeves. And one of the pet peeves is Cardone going off on Riverboat Ron because he kicked at the end of the Eagle game because he said his offense was gassed after a drive. And Shanahan actually said, look, we just gave up a long drive to end the game. My defense is tired. I wanted to take the ball and set the tone. I really didn't have a problem with that. These new overtime rules, the way they are, is it better to have the ball first? Is it better to know what you're up against? Now, I've heard people say, well, you were giving Patrick Mahomes an extra down there. Sure you are, but if you get a stop, it doesn't matter. I don't think analytics really tells you one way or the other if Shanahan made the right decision there or not, especially given the fact that they did go down and score. They just scored a field goal, but they scored and they kept their defense off.
I know, there was a couple players that admitted it, right? That they didn't know the overtime rules. I'm praying that Shanahan and his staff wasn't thinking that you get the ball, you score a touchdown, and the game's over. That's what that can't be possible, right?
I don't think that is.
I don't know what they were saying. I agree, Cardone. I don't know.
I'm not so sure.
I didn't know the overtime rules. Like I'm sitting there at the end going, the Chiefs better hurry up here. The quarter's going to run out.
Yep.
And then I didn't realize like you could actually keep the ball and the quarter can run out. I thought it was going to be like you have to score by the end of the quarter, or
so did I.
Well, why have a clock?
Exactly. There's no need for it.
And that's my thing is you play over 500 games a year, over 2,000 quarters where the clock is a factor. You get to the most important game of the freaking year and the clock means nothing.
I was thinking the same thing. I couldn't believe I'm sitting there like timeout, call timeout. What are they doing?
I mean
here we are. Point. We've been watching this our whole fucking lives, right? We've been and I don't know. I'm at the point that the NFL is so unrecognizable. I don't know the rules. I'm one of these people that walking around. I don't know the goddamn rules of the NFL. I'm one of those people that they forever with the safety. They put the rules on the screen for the safety, but now they make major changes to the overtime rules in the playoffs, and now they're not deciding they won't put the rules up on the screen for guys, for the entire public. But I still get the safety rules up there. I don't even know what's going on in overtime myself. I'm like Donovan McNabb. Shit, can you tie in this game? I don't know what's going on. Can you split the Lombardi Trophy? I don't know what.
It's a good point. I mean, why not? If you don't want like an advantage one way or the other, getting the ball or not getting the ball, or so now everyone's got to possess it once, whatever. Just play a quarter.
Yes. Just
play a quarter of football. And if you want at the end, you could run the clock down and kick a field goal to win it, just like the end of regulation.
Exactly.
I just play the quarter.
Well, also, what benefit does it give you if you're the team that receives the ball first to burn clock? It really doesn't.
Right. It doesn't. It doesn't mean anything.
I thought the 49ers, I'm like, well, hey, at least they're burning a lot of clock here, And,
right.
I guess
how about get rewarded for a 12-minute drive?
No, not in overtime. Doesn't matter.
Like Novak said, why have what did the clock matter?
It doesn't. And I'm right now. I'm thinking, thank God, because I thought I'd get on the pod here, and I'm like, these guys are going to know everything, and I'm the idiot that knew nothing about how this worked. Now I'm with you guys. You didn't know either. Thank God.
No,
Novak.
I knew.
Well, Romo told us right before the last play, and then continued to talk about it while the play was being run into the touchdown, and then blabbed after it. Romo's like, now there's probably people at home going, why aren't they stopping the clock here? And I'm like, yeah, I'm one of them. That's me. That's this guy.
I have that guy.
Been watching 50 years, and I'm the guy that doesn't know what the hell's going on. Fair weather Super Bowl fan, I guess.
You guys got anything else about that game?
I mean, if you're gonna go ahead, Cardone. Sorry.
No, I was going to talk about more reactions from the sports media about a couple plays, but what's amazing, again, I love the narratives after these things. I mean, this is, again, kind of blending into my pet peeves a little bit, but the Shanahan decision, right, to take the ball. So as I was watching on Monday and then into Tuesday, all the reactions, it's amazing how you flip around these different networks and everyone's talking about the same exact thing all the time. It's amazing how I heard two main things. Shanahan take the decision to take the ball, I heard, and then the blocked extra point and how huge that was. Meanwhile, I didn't hear one analyst talk about the muffed punt, which was basically a defensive touchdown for the Chiefs. When it was 13, at that time it was it was right.
They
it was
were up
16,
10, right?
13. No, San Fran. Wait a minute. Let me get this right. At that time it was San Fran was up 10-6, and they're getting the ball back, and that's when they muffed the punt on the 16-yard line. One play later, the pass to MVS Valdez-Scantling. So that basically, think about, the one play drive. That's a defensive touchdown, basically. I didn't hear one asshole talking about this as being significant on Monday. How can that be? Right. Think about it.
It wasn't even on the nope.
The cameras pointing at was it Moody, the field goal kicker, like he lost the fucking game at the end. Did you guys notice that? At one point, he's sitting on the bench, the cameras on him. Like, what are you showing this guy for?
I like how
show the guy with the muff punt where he hit off his ankle. Why? Where's that guy?
I like how the blocked extra point also became the kicker's fault. It's not the line's fault.
Yeah,
right.
He kicked it low. Yeah, it's amazing.
They had Jay Feely comes in there and he has this big moment. This one's on the kicker. What the hell are you talking about?
Well, I also here's the thing. He misses the extra point, and I agree it's a big factor. But at the same time, the Chiefs ended up kicking a field goal to tie. If that's a 4-point game, they've got to go for a touchdown there. Yeah. So the game they could have actually lost the game because do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can't just say it lost the game because everything changes on that. So I don't buy into that.
Well, I love how they're lining up for, like, Moody's lining up for that 50-yarder afterwards. Well, he hit a 50-yarder earlier, but he had a big block, and then he nails the 50-yarder, and they're like, oh, yeah, he overcame it. And I'm like, hey, what do you mean he overcame it? He kicked the ball up before the guy. I mean, you got a guy's hand that's literally right in the flight of the ball. How's that on the kicker, really?
Which, by the way, the 50-yarder was a low laser beam.
Actually, that was Butker's.
Oh, was that the Butker kick?
That was the Butker kick.
One of them came out of there like a bottle rocket. Just pew.
You mean the one that was the shortest lived Super Bowl record of all time?
Yeah. The longest field goal.
He had a 55-yarder. It was a record for about 7 minutes.
And
I thought that was a little short to be a Super Bowl record. I was kind of surprised to hear that.
I was surprised
too.
I was.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But, like, it's amazing, guys. Like, I was waiting for someone to mention the muff punt. That never came up. No. And then the other thing I was kind of just miffed about was after San Fran takes the lead 19-16 with a minute 50 or whatever it was, 2 minutes left. Did you guys happen to notice they kind of went into this, I don't want to call it a full-on prevent defense, but they basically we're okay. They decided, well, we'll just let Kansas City check their way down at the end of regulation, and then we'll just go, we'll go to overtime. That's cool. We're not going to lose it. Like, what the fuck is going on with all this? I was watching, they were lining up 5 guys like 10 yards off the line of scrimmage. Yeah. They were just okay with Kansas City just checking their way down, a la like the Buffalo Bills with the 13-second thing. Only this was 2 minutes of this rather than 13 seconds. I'm watching this. I was wondering if anyone else was thinking the same thing. Each play as I'm watching, I'm like, what the hell are they doing? They're trying to win a game here.
I didn't know when we came on tonight that Wilkes got fired, but I think, Cardone, that's what got him fired. Because I noticed that I was saying the same thing. I think that's why Shanahan took that timeout eventually to say that Wilkes was like seeding the 50-yard line. Like, you can have the 50. It's like, whoa. You got Nick Bosa. Make him drop back and look around. You got Nick Bosa. You get a sack, that game's almost over. They're just sort of laying back.
I'm looking at that drive, and first they got to third down once, and it was a 3rd and 2, and then that was it. The rest of it was nothing but first and second down. They didn't have another. They didn't force even another third down, third and long, fourth down. Nothing. They just checked their way down to a game-tying Super Bowl game-tying field goal with no time left. Basically,
at the same time, that's a Shanahan thing. Don't forget, he was up 28-3 and did the same defense against the Patriots. And then 4 years ago, he's up 10 points against the Chiefs. Same exact thing. So you're telling me it's Wilks' fault? I think Shanahan's the one that plays tight when he's got to win in these big games.
Yeah.
Well, he's starting to get that monkey on his back too. So that's tough to get off. The one commentary I particularly liked was, I think the Chiefs had a fourth down in overtime, 4th and 1. And the next day I heard, if you're the Niners, how are you not stopping Mahomes there? Why are you trying to focus on Pacheco? You got to focus on Mahomes. Well, if Pacheco ran for 2 yards, what are they going to be saying? How could you be focusing on Mahomes? It's a 4th and 1. The odds of making a 4th and 1 are probably 85, 90%.
Yeah, pretty high.
Yeah.
Just a great play call and great execution.
Yep.
I mean, talk to Dan Campbell. He knows how to convert a 4th down.
Knows how to try. That's a tough loss for the 49ers. You think about a couple of different things in this game. I think they're probably now the only team that can officially say they had a lead in overtime and lost the game. I don't think we led in overtime in the Super Bowl. Like, what the hell? And they had 2 plays in the fourth quarter, one on offense and one defense, where they were 1 play away from winning a Super Bowl. Yeah. And they failed on both of those plays, and then they led in overtime. That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
The funny thing coming out of that is Wilks gets fired, and there's a bunch of people throwing shade on Brock Purdy. It's like Brock Purdy had the lead in the overtime. Mm-hmm. It's like how could you throw shade on this guy?
Well, Shannon Sharp was all over it. I mean, I was listening to this asshole just berate Purdy for not making the throw on 3rd down in overtime when Spags is sending and Dan Orlovsky, who I rail on him all the time. It was great. His reaction. He's like, "What are you talking about, Shannon?" He's like, he had a defender hanging on his neck. Shannon Sharp wants this guy to make this throw. What are you talking about? I mean, it's unreal. You can spin it however you want.
We did witness something unique in that game. We witnessed a horse collar tackle that wasn't actually a tackle.
I had to make a note. I didn't know that you could get a penalty for not tackling someone. I didn't write it down.
Did you hear what Vukovic said in his announcement? He goes, personal foul, 15-yard penalty, horse collar motion or something. What do you call it? Horse collar. He didn't call it horse collar tackle. He called it horse collar
movement
attempt.
Something. It was a weird. It was a weird name. It was a weird name for it. And I was like, oh, so now is that like tackling by the helmet?
Tackling by the helmet. We've heard that one. Yeah.
League really is unbelievable that you can.
One of the other things that I got fed up with earlier in the week when they were doing Super Bowl week is how the local newscasts come on, and these people don't know anything about sports. And the one lady here in Charlotte was talking about the game, the preview, and they're like, and Brock Purdy, who his teammates call Mr. Irrelevant. I'm like, every year there is a guy named Mr. Irrelevant. He is the last pick in the draft. This is not some nickname given to you like by your teammates or by other people. It's really,
if your teammates give you this nickname, that is not a good thing. You don't want that nickname from your teammates. His teammates call Mr. Sucks. That's bad.
Yeah, Novak, you got pet peeves tonight?
So we danced around it. So actually, you opened the show with my pet peeve, which was going to be Romo, but so I'm going to my backup pet peeve, which is I don't know if I want to say it was CBS that when the game ended, they went to like that, they went to the desk and whatever, and they said, the Chiefs win the Super Bowl and Brock Purdy is not a game manager or something like that. Someone said that term. And I thought to myself, why is that a bad thing that you're a game manager? Because I view game manager as he plays the game to win the game. And I think we may have touched on this before, but like they want to not call this guy a game manager. Why is that bad? So like, and I'm just annoyed by the whole like. Do you guys not see it that way? Because I think
Oh,
Yeah.
he doesn't make mistakes. He makes good decisions. He moves his team down the field, and he wins games. If that's the definition of a game manager, I'll take him next year.
I love how managing things in other aspects of your life is a good thing. Like you can manage your finances, you can manage your health, you can manage but managing a football game for some reason is like absolutely like the most. It's the worst thing known to sports, mankind.
Yeah.
It's always been one that's bothered me because Novak just said it, but you don't if you're a mediocre quarterback and you don't win, no one's calling you a game manager. So you know what game managers win. That's what they do. It's like the game manager is like their code word for a quarterback who does nothing flashy and just wins. Game manager.
They used to call Mark Sanchez a game manager, and he got the Jets to
Two
two
AFC
straight AFC championships.
Yeah.
That is correct. There has not been an AFC championship game played, by the way, without Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, or Mark Sanchez since 2008. So just so
Mark
you know.
Sanchez.
Awesome.
I love it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I heard that the Purdy thing. Again, that guy was just railed on, right, in the media, the game manager. But I also heard, I'm trying to remember exactly how they said it, but something around the fact that can he be considered elite, even though he, going into the game, will he be elite if he wins the Super Bowl? So this was pre-game, of course, and I'm thinking to myself, well, so what does that mean exactly? So he's not elite like on Saturday, but he will be Sunday because he wins this particular game?
Because he game managed another win?
Right. Exactly? Like, what if he does nothing to actually, what if it's a 9-6 game and so will he still be elite? So like that fucking elite tag with quarterbacks, it got thrown out there, of course, with Brock Purdy. Will he be elite with a Super Bowl win? Well, what does that mean? I don't know. He has to win one more game. So he's still not elite then? And what does it matter?
It doesn't.
I know he's not Mr. Irrelevant, but I know when I refer to Nick Foles, I call him elite Nick Foles, right?
The elite Nick Foles.
The elite Nick Foles.
He's a champion, I guess.
Yeah. What if the other thing? I mean, so he's got to win that game to be elite. What if he goes 46 of 52 with 4 touchdowns and loses?
Right. That's the other side.
Not elite.
Nope. It's agonizing. It really is.
Mike, pet peeve?
Yeah, I do have a couple. I think I'm going to try to squeeze them all in since this is our last show of the year. So one thing I want to mention about the game, which is a pet peeve, but again, could the Kansas City Chiefs on national television have been more unlikable? You know what I mean? Like Kelsey just throwing Reed to the ground because they took him out on a running play. And then, you had this, they're playing in the Super Bowl. Mahomes is getting, chased around the pocket. There's a guy wide open in the end zone. And that guy goes and yells at Patrick Mahomes for being, I'm like, this team is so, at that point, I wanted them to lose so bad. So yeah, they're definitely the new villains of the NFL. And, I wish they lost because I do think maybe if they had just lost that game, even in overtime, everything plays out the same. I do think there may have been some talk about, did the Chiefs unravel in that game a little bit? But since they won, that all gets, shoved off and brushed off. So that was the one I wanted to talk about, the pet peeve relating to the Super Bowl. I had another one that I just want to get out there because I love this. And I mentioned it to you guys the last time we did a show. I mentioned it off air and I said I was going to bring it up again. And again, it has to do with reactions of media and everything. But I saw this little tidbit a couple weeks ago, and it's Kansas City tried to trade up to get Paxton Lynch in that draft that he was available in. The Broncos traded up ahead of them and stole Paxton Lynch from Kansas City. So Kansas City stayed where they are, and they got Chris Jones out of that pick. And then the next year, of course, they drafted Patrick Mahomes. So, I'm sure that the media was, the Broncos brass with a crafty move outfoxing the Chiefs, and you just, especially when it comes to the draft, but a lot of things with the NFL, it's like you don't know what any of it means until years later. You really don't. You don't know what moving up 2 spots, and my good example of that, of course, is going to be Kadarius Toney, because the Giants got ripped to shreds for trading him. And by the way, getting good value for him, picks that turned into
Darren Waller.
Yeah, and another player, right, that's not with us anymore, maybe. But so now he's doing the same exact things with the Chiefs. He claims to be healthy. He wasn't on the field in the Super Bowl. Like, do the Giants get an apology for this? Because if you now, in hindsight, the Giants really schooled the Chiefs on that trade. They really did. They got rid of a locker room cancer and a guy who the Kansas City Chiefs, who are so hungry for receivers, or maybe they were before the playoff run here, couldn't get on the field in Kansas City. So, just everybody listening, us four certainly probably have fallen into the same traps from time to time, but just keep in mind, man, that these things are a process. And you don't know what a trade looks like. You don't know what a draft pick looks like until years later in most cases.
Mike, I liked your first pet peeve in that I think this will come to play probably sometime next year, maybe the year after. And we saw glimpses of it this year. But, when the Chiefs started facing adversity this year, we saw the Mahomes meltdown. We saw Reed meltdown. In the Super Bowl, you saw Kelsey meltdown. And then the jackass gets on stage and does some Viva Las Vegas shit. He's screaming like a freaking banshee. But like you said, this was a team. I actually am like, I don't mind the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going into the season. The Chiefs are likable. I like Patrick Mahomes. He plays decent and stuff like that. And just certain things that happen along the way turn the tide against them. And part of it's just because you start acting like entitled jackasses. Now they won, and we have to hear about, how the Chiefs, the Chiefs are playing this victim card now too. No one believed in the Chiefs. What the hell are you talking about? Everyone believes in the Chiefs. No one's writing you guys off. Everyone's like, I don't want to play the Chiefs in the playoffs. It's not you against the world. It's not. Everyone thinks you guys are probably going to win the Super Bowl. But because they were underdogs in their last 2 games, they play this woe against, the world thing. And it's just, up until I think it was week 8 this year, I had no problem with the Chiefs. And then all of a sudden, I think it was that game against Buffalo really turned the tide. And then there's some stuff after that. And then just, Kelsey, it's almost like he's a WWE wrestler and he's turned heel or something. I don't have no way to describe it better than that.
Yeah. So adversity, we mentioned this weeks ago, reveals character, right? And this is a team that's never faced any adversity up until this season. And good for them that they overcame whatever little bit of adversity they had. But I'll tell you when the needle moved for me. It used to be pegged on likable team. But it was last year when I said, this team's a bunch of assholes. And it was the ring around the rosy play.
Oh, yeah.
I remember. Yeah, Mike, I remember you mentioning that. Yes.
That was the one where I was like, okay, I do not like this group of people very much, I don't think. But, I don't know how much. I don't think Reed has very much control over his players' actions on the field.
Well, can you imagine if that's Odell Beckham or Antonio Brown doing that to Reed?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Antonio Brown put a tweet out saying I would be suspended for life if I did that to my coach.
Absolutely, he would have.
Yeah. I thought it was bullshit what Kelsey did. The antics. He's one of those guys. The completely, utterly narcissistic, entitled. Just bullshit, right? I mean, I couldn't, when they showed that first replay, I was like, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Like, that's your coach. I'm so old school. Imagine doing that to like Bill Parcells or Buddy Ryan or Mike Ditka or Bill Cowher. You gonna do that to Bill Cowher, Kelsey? Bullshit. You picked on Andy Reid, who's like, Humpty Dumpty.
He probably gave him a dozen nuggies after that.
Yeah,
and he was fine.
You gonna eat those nuggies, coach?
Yeah. Oh, he's just, that's
Gross.
his way of, just being fired up, and they love each other, and he loves his coach. Bullshit.
Yeah.
This
I don't know.
guy has shown himself. He is one fake MFer. I mean, that's
Oh,
what it
yeah.
comes down to. I don't buy a thing this guy says. He wants to
Yeah.
say he's this like clean cut Taylor Swift. I'm in love. Bullshit. I'll guarantee behind closed doors, this guy is not at all what his public perception is.
Yeah,
That's almost a given.
I would agree with that too. Cardone, pet peeve?
Yeah, it's funny. I was just thinking of one as we were going through them. I didn't write this down earlier, but I was just this will be a real quick hitter, and then I'll get into my other one, which we've already kind of covered. But this is along the lines of what we're talking about with this game and all this stuff on the side. I am absolutely up to my eyeballs, guys, now and I don't even gamble, but the number of prop bets that's going on now with this particular game. I used to like prop bets. I used to actually participate, fill out a whole sheet. There were like 20 different things on there, and like you went through, and whoever got the most right was the winner, and you'd win like, $50, that kind of thing. Now it's like this has taken on an entire like just world of its own with just no one even knows. No one's even betting on just the game itself, like the straight old-fashioned, spreads. Everything's a prop bet. I can't take it anymore, guys. It just adds to the fakeness of this game, and it just. So I just thought of that as we were recording tonight. I'm like, the number of prop bets, that's only getting worse too. But my main pet peeve, we've already covered it, so I'm just gonna beat this one to death again. But it's when we're watching these reactions, guys, and the one we've already talked about this, where in overtime, where the team that gets the ball twice gets the 4 downs. So you got all these talking heads, the Orlovskis, and all these geniuses on Monday now explaining to the dumb fan like me on the couch, like, well, now they. You're giving Patrick Mahomes an extra down. I'm like, no shit, asshole. We've been saying this on the 3 Giants fans for 4 years. And now you guys are just waking up to it. And it's like you created it and invented this analysis now. They're calling themselves. It drives me crazy when we're breaking down the game on this podcast long before these assholes are coming out on national TV and doing it on ESPN. And they're acting all clever, intelligent, and smarty pants. on Get Up, First Take, you name it, all those bullshit shows. It just drives me crazy, guys. Like that, So there's Orlovsky being all, just Mr. Know-it-all about giving, about the extra down. Been saying this for since college went to their rule, the overtime rules and all these things. I'm like, the team that gets the ball second, like, how about just stopping somebody? When the NFL went to all these overtime extra possessions and all this thing, now here we are. We've already talked about it, guys, but. I don't even know the rules anymore in terms of how the game is being won. But we all know about the extra down. It just pisses me off that these guys, they act so smart and so intelligent. We've been talking about this for years.
Oh, I know we talked about the sideline reporter earlier here, and Novak's favorite sideline reporter was doing the game, Tracy Wolfson, this time, and she added absolutely 0 to the game.
No.
0.
Completely useless. No, but I mean, yeah, Cardone, you hit the nail on the head, man. I mean, how many times have we said it, and all of a sudden now it becomes a thing, and they're not going to say it till the end of the year where it's okay to say it, but all throughout the year they're never going to, go out on a limb. It's just so it's so frustrating.
Yeah, you got to have some balls to say it before it happens, not react to it afterwards.
Yes.
That's
exactly.
Cardone's mentioned this before, and how much they're almost like weathermen now, because we've talked about how they all have the exact same forecast. Everyone has it. So now so you turn on the TV, the first thing you watch, you listen to their take, you're like, okay. And the next show, same take, same words. The next show, same take, same words. Like you said, and apparently everyone was up getting snacks during the punt muff.
Yeah.
Huge giant play in the game that, frankly, until you just mentioned it, I forgot about.
I didn't hear it once.
No one's talking.
No one brought it up.
I thought back to the last time the Niners lost in the championship game to the Giants in the big special teams play that the Giants made.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and you're right, Cardone. Another thing you said, which was funny, is that they keep changing the rules. But don't they sit there, and these are smart people who paid a lot of money. Don't they factor every possible scenario before they change the rule? That's almost
Exactly.
like they're like, oh, I didn't think about the clock running out, and that's a problem the fans are gonna.
Yeah.
I never thought that could happen.
Yeah.
Like they have months to figure this out with all these
Yep.
people, and they can figure every scenario possible.
I swear to God, they don't. It's amazing. I don't think they do. Not
No,
like the
they're
four
gonna
of us.
change
I'll
it
tell you
again.
that.
It's kind of ironic that their whole focus is in shortening games, but the Super Bowl, they apparently don't care how long it goes. The Super Bowl could go on for 3 days.
It really screwed that show that was coming on right after the Super Bowl, which
I
didn't
thought
start
about
till
that.
11:10
That
or
poor
so.
news show that they're getting ready to unveil.
We didn't even talk about the commercials and how bad those sucked. I mean, my God.
Outside of the Matt Damon one, that was pretty good.
That was a good one.
That was all right. That was slightly all right.
I don't know what's going on with them now, the commercials, because
Yeah.
we're getting older. We probably are not getting references in those. That's how I feel. I feel like they're talking about something I don't understand right now. And then like they pay so much money that they just keep adding other elements into the commercial. And you're like, where was this going? Like, what is it? I don't get it. I sound like such an old man right now.
I felt old because my nephew schooled me on something. I said, who the hell is Ice Spice? And I said, what is her talent? And my nephew goes, shaking her ass.
Okay, well.
So I have no idea. Still, I had to look it up. She apparently twerks in every one of her concerts or whatever. Yeah. So
is that the
she
one that
was
was up with Taylor Swift?
She was in the booth with Taylor Swift. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So before I get into my pet peeve, I do want to give a shout out because my wife and I stayed in tonight. It's Valentine's Day. We had a nice dinner, and my daughter gave us both bottles of mead in our Christmas stockings. So I felt like a Viking. I was drinking mead, which is a honey-based liquor, which was actually quite good. It was blueberry currant mead.
Wow.
Drink it from a horn?
And then I'm drinking dank little thing IPA for my beer night. But
well, let's let this pod go. We might get some Bengal starters going.
Right.
Preseason's coming up.
The mead was surprisingly like tame. It was like 7% alcohol.
That's it.
Yeah. So it was tasty. It was sweet, like honey. So my pet peeve is some of these out of context stats that you see in the aftermath of the game. So first off, they always try to make the game into the best ever immediately afterwards. Oh, this was the most fantastic ending ever. It went to overtime, but the game itself was not a particularly well played game. It was, it was boring through the first half. I mean, at halftime, everyone's like, I can't wait for Usher because this game sucks, and it just sort of snowballed from there. But they gave the stat right after the game saying that the Chiefs are the only team to come back from 10-plus point deficits in 3 different Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Well, how many fucking teams have played in Super Bowls 3 times? I mean, the Jets have it, the Lions have it, the Panthers have it. I mean, so 3 Super Bowls. I mean, you're talking about a limited span of like 5 different teams that you're choosing from here.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was Mahomes did something Brady has never done.
Oh, God.
He won an overtime game with a TD pass. Well, there's been exactly one other football game in the Super Bowl era that's gone to overtime, and it was a touchdown run by James White that won it for the Patriots. So the Patriots still won a game by a touchdown in the Super Bowl, but apparently Tom Brady did not throw that touchdown pass, which doesn't make him as great as the new GOAT.
Not
Patrick
a clutch.
Mahomes.
Yeah, come on. Any 4 of us could have thrown that touchdown pass. That's not. And by the way, Mahomes could have run it in. I mean, as soon as the ball was snapped, you could have turned the TV off. It was over. You could see it. It was dumb.
Now, the one stat they did not say that I thought was particularly interesting is that in 3 Super Bowl wins, the Chiefs have not been called for a single offensive holding penalty. And I bet
Is
you
that
Nick
right?
Bosa's one. I think Nick Bosa's probably going, well, how the hell has that happened?
Yeah,
But
we didn't get into that, but the Chiefs' offensive line was, oh my God, they were mauling, and not in the good way. There was a lot of holding.
Well, I heard
Scott,
the officials were praised on, for not, taking control of the game, so to speak, I guess. Again, we've talked about this many times where you're still controlling the game by not calling significant penalties also.
Yeah.
So it's it's okay to call penalties when there are penalties happening. It's fine. We're okay with that.
The best thing I could say about Vukovic's crew is that they weren't as corrupt as the crew that did the Knicks Rockets game the other day.
oh, that's
That one's big.
Which the NBA will probably still deny that they have a
do it.
problem with gambling, but yeah. So we do have a couple questions this week. Our friend Ingrid came up with a good question, I think, and she asked, what rule changes would we like to see in 2024? And since I had the benefit of having this question ahead of time and you guys haven't, I will answer that. And mine will be old school. So one of mine is I want to go back to the clock stopping when you go out of bounds.
Oh,
I just want the clock to stop, let the ball get spotted. If you went out of bounds, reward the guy for going out of bounds and saving clock. It's never going to happen because, like Mike said, the NFL is hell-bent on making the games as quick as possible until the Super Bowl comes around. But that's one of them. And then the second rule change I'd like to see is that I want there to be a paring down of the rule book. I've mentioned this a lot of times on the pod, so it's just sort of going into redundancy. But I just want them to call blatant plays that impact the outcome. I don't want them to call something on the other side of the field where a guy might grab someone's decal and his hand slips down and he slightly delays the receiver's route. I don't want them to call like illegal man downfield when the guy's like half a yard downfield on a borderline play that's doesn't impact anything. I just want them to call things at the point of attack and call things where the ball is that are blatant and let everything else not go, but if it's blatant, call it. Those are my two rule changes. Simplify the rule book and the out of bounds.
The going out of bounds one, I remember when they went to that rule, I can still remember my brother and I used to talk about this all the time, like, oh, that's going to be a problem. That's a major problem. And when they first changed it, it wasn't nearly as bad as it is today. Like, if you guys notice, we've talked about this a million times on the pod here, like where a guy goes out of bounds and somehow that clock is going immediately. Like, it used to be like they would at least wait until the ball was set, like maybe on the hash or that for the next play. Then the clock would roll. Now it just runs. But as you were talking, Scott, I thought of one. I wasn't sure because that would have been probably my response. But good question, Ingrid. Thanks for sending this one in. I would love to see penalties, like personal foul penalties, be able to be reviewed when they're not when they call face masks because it looks like a face mask, and they and you see the replay like, oh, he actually grabbed the guy's like jersey and his head just kind of yanked around. Or also when they say helmet to helmet and then you see the replay, you're like, nope, it was a shoulder. I would love to see those be able to be reviewable, or at least make them challengeable by the other the head coach. And say, you know what? Let's pick that. Let's look at that one and have the fucking ref go into the review booth and have them over. I would love to see them overturn personal fouls.
By the way, I went back and saw what they said about the horse collar. 15-yard penalty, horse collar action. Did not say horse collar penalty. Horse collar tackle. He called it horse collar action.
That's
so
awesome.
Apparently now you can't even make the look of a horse collar.
No, you got to let the guy run on for the touchdown.
So if that's the case, why not? When you're in the open field and some guy's like coming from behind, why don't you just yank your own head back every time? Horse collar action. Why not just do that?
I've got two what I think are very simple ones. The first would be, we have technology that makes it very easy for us. You see that first down line, it's never wrong, that thing, right? To the inch, you know exactly if it's first down or not. I want the rule for intentional grounding to not be in the vicinity, Tell me if it's 3 or 5 yards that the ball hits the ground from a player that is an eligible receiver. That needs to be the rule. I don't care if it's 3, 5, 7, 15. I don't care what the number is. But we have the technology to say that player is within 7 yards. That is not intentional grounding. I want that. The second one is on pass interference, because we've talked about the bailout. I don't want it to I like college's rule. I don't like it the spot of the foul. I want 10 yards or 15 yards so that you can't just loft the ball 50 yards in the air, hope for a pass interference and get the ball 50 yards down the field as a way to kick a field goal and win a game. Those are the two that I want.
Yeah, those are great ones. The
Good ones.
Yeah, I like everything everyone said. I think we should be on the committee that decides these things. Yeah, no doubt about that. The intentional ground. I thought of something earlier about intentional grounding, and I don't think it was a Super Bowl. It was another game I was watching. But I think you know how they wave off pass interference if the ball's tipped.
Yes.
I think you wave off intentional grounding if the quarterback's being hit while he throws the ball.
Yeah.
Because you don't know where he was aiming that ball before he got hit. You know what I mean? Like if it goes straight into the ground, well, it's because he was, he's about to throw it. And he got wailed on, but that one might be a little hard to do. But mine, I've talked about several times this year. My big one would be when the play clock hits 0, you blow the play dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 0 turns red. And that's very simple to review, even just like the NBA shot clock. There's no reason why we have this arbitrary beat after the play clock hits 0. If you want to include the beat, then add 1 second to the play clock. And when it hits 0, it's over.
I do think it's
that one.
I do think it's funny that when we're doing replays, we're getting down to like whether or not a guy's like shin hits a blade of grass, and we're going into this minutia, but we don't give a fuck about the play clock.
Yeah,
like you're getting into that much detail on another play, but on the other play you're like, fuck it, he's within the vicinity.
Yeah, and they speaking of that, the contradiction in the rules. I mentioned the other one earlier in the year. How come you could be everything but your pinky toe across the line of scrimmage and still throw a forward pass? Yes. Everything else is based on the ball. Is the ball past it or not? Just come on. That just seems so stupid.
Or go back. I just thought of another one as we're talking. Go back to the one back in the old days where if a defensive lineman jumped offside and he's allowed to get back on sides before they just call encroachment. It used to be the guy was able to just get back on sides.
Just get back
to that.
Yeah, you've seen that clip, the famous NFL clip. The guy jumps over the offensive line, jumps back, gets set, and then they run the play.
Should be legal.
So, of course, Peacock has a couple of questions, and one of them, I think, is just his silly question. So he asked if we could see or how could we handle a Giants-Jets Super Bowl next year, and could the media handle it?
Oh,
and obviously anyone who's in the Super Bowl, I actually think it would be one of the worst things for both of our teams because they would be propping the shit out of the Giants and Jets, trying to make them into the next great team because they both made the Super Bowl.
Well, first of all, before I answer anything about that question, I will take it. Like I
yes,
right.
I personally will take it. It would make for a great podcast. But no, he's right. The media's head would explode.
Oh yeah, explode.
Wouldn't know what to do with that.
Yeah, it will never happen in our lifetime.
That's the thing. Like I'm trying to think of a witty response to this, but I'm like, it's never gonna happen. Why am I gonna?
Yeah.
There's just no chance of that ever happening.
How many times would the phrase Subway Super Bowl be brought out?
I know. Yeah.
We'd have the Fox graphic of the Subway with
the Subway
people punching their tickets.
Yeah.
No, it'd be the Snoopy Bowl. What are you talking about?
Forget about it.
The Snoopy Bowl has a name. Yeah.
By the way, a Giant did win an award on the awards night. Celebration of the Year was DeVito's.
Are you kidding?
I am not kidding. There's actually a category for Celebration of the Year.
I wish I didn't know that now. Why get to say that?
Yeah,
I don't even want to
true.
know that.
But you want to know something even worse? When they're out there presenting the awards, they all have the Microsoft Surface there that they're reading off of, and that tells them who won the award.
Yeah. So
It's-
rather than a paper envelope,
It's just a fucking brand,
oh,
a brand palooza.
Celebration of the year. Congratulations, guys. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
celebration of the year.
I'm
For what?
jealous. You won celebration of the year. Good for you.
Of
For
course,
what? The guy won 3 games. What are we celebrating?
It was my list was Super Bowl first, and then to get celebration of the year, and then an NFC championship, and then after that. So not a total loss.
Who won comeback player of the year? I never saw.
Actually, it was Flacco, and there was a
did
lot.
Okay,
There was
good.
actually
Okay.
there was a lot of pushback from people the next day. They're like, "How could DeMar Hamlin not win this?" And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
"Because he actually has to perform. You can't just give it to a guy because he's not dead."
Right.
He also may have cost the Bills a trip to the Super Bowl. So
That's true.
outside of that, I mean,
Yeah, they came to their senses and they gave it to Flacco, which I thought was well deserved. I mean, we talked about
Absolutely.
it, but
Yes, he deserved it.
you can't
know.
argue with that.
DeMar Hamlin was active for only 5 games. He recorded 2 tackles. He had 2 penalties and 1 failed field goal or fake punt conversion.
Big punt.
So Peacock's last question is, how many losses to start the year before Dable's fired?
Well, we don't fire anybody mid-season. That's not our culture, right? So,
I say
is he
that,
asking us or he asking? I mean, if we answer that, shit, I would. I mean, if they
I
start
think
next
Dable has
Yeah.
until the end of the year. I think we'd all agree that.
Oh, he's got a whole full season.
And
unless-
since the Giants are going to make the playoffs next year, he's got more than next year.
You think they're making the playoffs?
The only thing I will
There we
say,
go.
you guys have got that Bill Belichick thing hanging over your heads next year, no doubt. I think.
I don't think so.
I don't
Bill
know. I
Belichick,
don't
to
think
me-
he's taken any job. But I think he would take the Giant job. I think he reveres that organization. I think he would take that job.
I don't know if we want a 72-year-old
He's an
man
old
on the
man.
sideline.
I'm not saying you want him. I'm saying that's going to be the media. Is
Oh, God.
if Dable
Yeah.
starts losing, I think the Belichick name is going to start popping up.
I will say one thing I heard this week with, well, actually just today because it happened today with Steve Wilkes getting fired. How long before Salah's back in San Francisco as a defensive coordinator?
Hopefully week 2.
Mhm.
Week 2.
The only reason I want him back is for Salah Cam. I mean, because I want to get hammered at these games. So that's the only reason I want him back.
We'll have to go watch San Francisco games. But
Yeah.
I think for Cardone's right. We would firing someone mid-season would seem so out of character. But if the Giants start this year like 1-7 or 2-8 or something, everything's on the table.
By the way, I
Maybe,
think
God forbid that the Amazon AWS will schedule a couple home games against maybe the fucking Commanders or something at 1:00 on a September Sunday, so we can start a fucking season 2-1 somehow instead of being on the road.
Well, I hope we're
prime
not playing
time.
the Eagles week 1 because the Eagles apparently are going to have the Brazil game.
Yeah,
week
they're in
1.
Brazil. Brazil.
I have a Giants predicted schedule here that I made.
Already.
Who do we open with? The Cowboys?
We're home against Washington.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
This
That's
might
unheard
be
of.
welcome.
Yeah.
might be a dream schedule. But then to punish us for that, the NFL is sending us to Seattle in prime time, week 2. So
Yeah. Giants should get freaking no more than one primetime game next year. That
All
garbage
I'm
team.
hoping
They
is
shouldn't
that
get more than one.
neither the Panthers or the Falcons decide to go to Berlin or UK
Right.
or whatever, and then the Giants are their game.
It's possible, right?
It's possible.
Very possible.
So, guys, season 4 comes to a close. We will be back for a preview of free agency. We always do a draft preview as well. So there will be some intermittent episodes, but I want to thank everyone for a great season. our team sucked, both the Giants and Jets, but we had a ton of support this year. We appreciate all that support, and we've made it 4 years. So we're going into season 5, and I love it. I like seeing you guys every week.
It's not like we could get canceled. Like we're
not. my wife was watching the NFL Today thing, and she goes, "So was Jimmy the Greek the first guy that got canceled?" I said, "Yeah, he's one of the first."
Yeah, it might have been.
Jimmy the Greek. Guy was awesome. Yeah, guys. Wrap up another great season. Loved every minute of it. This is fun. It makes it so much more digestible with as bad as the Giants performed and the Jets at times. Terry, the highlight was the Jet-Giant game. That was we set the NFL back 50 years. That was one of the most fun, amazing, the disgusting, gross games that I've ever had that much fun watching. And it was just because of our group here. So just love it, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Very few times does a game live up or down to exactly what you thought it might be. That game was that was exactly what we thought it would be.
Yeah, I have thoroughly enjoyed this and appreciate you guys bringing me on this year. It was a blast ever since that Dick tore his Achilles the first 4 plays in.
My God, that was this year. That feels like 5 years ago,
doesn't it? And I went on the Namath rant, and ever since then, I needed this outlet to just let out my frustration with my godforsaken franchise that I root for. And you guys have been nothing but incredible partners, and I can't thank you enough.
I appreciate the fact that this pod isn't just for Giant and Jet fans. We have Cowboy fans listening. We have Steeler fans listening. We have fans of all different teams out there. And I think that's a testament, because I do think a lot of what we talk about isn't just frustration with our teams. It's frustration with the NFL that the common fan, the hardcore fan, is experiencing. We're talking about, stuff that's going on with the Super Bowl and sort of this whole season with the Taylor Swift stuff that was going on, that again wasn't her fault, but the NFL is taking full advantage of. Those kind of things wear on hardcore fans. The officiating wears on a hardcore fan. And when we see the way that the league's going, that's a departure from what we're used to. I don't want to sound like an old man, shaking his fist at the cloud, but guys, a lot of what I hear is agreeing with us, regardless of your age, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's a benefit of having this small platform. And like I said, we can't get canceled, so we have to, because this stuff doesn't get talked about mainstream because you can't. The NFL will shut it down. You will lose your job on ESPN. You won't, if you go on a 3-week bender about the officiating in the NFL on First Take, you won't be on First Take in week 4. Like you just can't do that. But yeah, I'll just echo everything you guys said. I mean, what a blast. It's almost more fun, I think, when the teams suck. At least the podcast.
It kind of is.
Yeah, it kind of is. It's true.
It really is. And so my focus next year, I'll tell you when we come on next year is, and I kind of mentioned it a little bit this year, but I'm going to be all over it, I think, next year. Maybe I'll get off the offensive line a little bit, but I am really uncomfortable, and it really showed up during the playoffs and the Super Bowl with how in bed the NFL is with gambling right now.
Yeah.
Because they purposely stayed away from it for so long, adamantly. Al Michaels get in trouble for hinting about the over, in the fourth quarter of a Monday night game at 1:00 in the morning. And now they sponsor the shows. They have segments on the shows. It's unseemly, and there's a reason they stayed out of it for so long. And, it just all you have to do is watch any NFL game and then get on Twitter, and someone will be saying the game is rigged these days, that because the officiating is so bad, makes it look that way. And then all this just happens to coincide with the NFL getting in bed with gambling. It's a bad look. And I plan on being all over that next year.
Yeah. It's a good
So
call.
we will be back for season 5. Like I said, we'll let you guys know ahead of time, but we usually come in a little bit before the free agency period. We do an episode, and then we come in a little bit before the draft, and then we start up on campus there. I'll probably throw in a few episodes just to keep things going about our pet peeves. So I'll do another mishmash of those with all the conglomeration episodes that we have had. But again, we appreciate the support, and thank you guys for season 4. We'll see you again in season 5.
All right, everyone.
Woo. Yep.
See you later.
Alligator.